On you.
Welcome, everyone, to Inform New Hampshire. My name is Dean Kern. This is Richie Merritt to my right, my co-host. We are broadcasting on Manchester Public Television, Channel 23, every Monday evening, Thursday morning, and Saturday and Sunday. We also have a YouTube channel, which is also titled Inform New Hampshire, and we have a Facebook page. Feel free to stop by, like us, and subscribe if you will. Richie and I are both state coordinators for National Liberty Alliance, and we believe that the common law grand jury is a significant part of the solution to America's problems. It was stolen from us in 1946. We want it back, and we're working on it. So we invite you to stop by National Liberty Alliance at nationallibertyalliance.org. So we're going to get started right away. Richie has a presentation today. I'm going to turn it over to him, and we'll take it from there. Richie?
Thank you, Dean. I did want to say before I get started, because I'd like to mention Jerry DeLemus every week on this show. So if you care to contribute to Jerry's legal fund, please go to www.patriotjerry.com and contribute. Jerry's been wrongfully, I don't want to say convicted, but he's been wrongfully charged of a lot of different things, and he has no business being in jail. He's been in jail for almost 4 months now in Nevada. So I'd appreciate any help you could give. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. And Dean has graciously given me the opportunity to say what I have to say. So I ask that you please pay attention to this. It's pertaining to the Constitution, and it's what is wrong in America. And I'm going to prove to the listeners what is wrong with America. So I'll start off with saying this is the United States Constitution. It is the supreme law of the land, not because I say so, because it says so in here, and I'd like Dean to read Article 6, Paragraph 2, to demonstrate that.
All right. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made pursuant thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, and thing in Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding.
That's all.
Yep.
That's good. Thank you. The point that I'd like to make there is the fact that this is the supreme law of the land. Any treaties that are made and any other laws that are made have to be in compliance or pursuance with this book, or it's null and void. And you must understand that. Having said that, this is a common law document. This particular book, as well as Dean's, has the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution itself. There are 7 articles in the Constitution, 27 amendments in the Bill of Rights. That consists of the Constitution. Those are all common law documents. Therefore, we are a common law society, or we are under common law. It's the law of the land. Unfortunately, our government, especially the judicial branch, puts us under the law of the sea, the Admiralty jurisdiction. They do this through deception, deceit, fraud, subversion, and a bunch of other things. And they're all participating in treason. This is me saying this now. However, getting back to the United States Constitution, I wanted to demonstrate to people why we are in the fix we're in America. And I believe I can do that adequately, hopefully to your satisfaction. Having said that, the first, second, and third amendment, the first, second, and third article in this Constitution, Article 1 pertains to the legislative branch, Article 2 to the executive branch, Article 3 to the judicial branch of our government. Those 3 branches didn't exist until the people in all the respective states, back in 1789, it was 13 states, 13 colonies or states. They signed this. Actually, I got the date wrong. It's did I say 1789?
You did.
Okay, then it's right. Thank you. I'm sorry. The people signed this. People say the states signed it. Yeah, the states did sign it. The people in the states. The state of New Hampshire, which I'm sitting on right now, doesn't have any thumbs or arms. It can't sign anything. The people did it. This is the people's document. The people are the sovereign. And under common law, so you'll know, there's a pyramid in any structure. 1775, it was the king on top. He made the rules, he set the laws, he collected the taxes, he did what he wanted to do. Under him was his military, his knights, whatever they were back then, I don't really know. And under that was the people, the peasants, who paid the taxes and obeyed the laws. Well, our founding fathers took that pyramid structure and turned it upside down. So the point is on the bottom. And up the top are the people. They are the sovereign. Nobody seems to like that word in government, but they are the sovereign. We, the people, are the sovereign. Read the Declaration of Independence, it says it in there. Read the United States Constitution, it says it in there. We're the sovereign. Underneath that is the states, and then at the very point, down the bottom of the pyramid, is the federal government. Because up until the time the people signed this, or just prior to that, the United States government didn't exist in this capacity. So we allowed them to exist. Okay? Now, having said that, in common law, your government can't rule over you. It has, what it can rule is what it says in here. Anything outside this book, it can't do. It's a violation of law if they do it. But if you don't know the Constitution, you don't know that. Under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, it says the United States government exists in Washington, D.C. Only. They can go to docks and ports and forts and dockyards. I'm not sure what they call it. Riverways. Something accessible on the water to commerce. They have the right to do that with the consent of the states that they're going to. If they don't have the consent, they don't have anything. Yet the United States government is all over the place today. It's in every state. Whether or not they did it legally, I really don't know. But they're everywhere. Some of the things that they do to us that I'd like to bring up and hopefully prove to you that it's what's happening in the world is our ignorance. It's the ignorance of the Constitution that's causing this problem. You go out to get a driver's license. I remember when I was a kid and my older friends would have a driver's license. Oh, next year I can get my license. And we're thinking, oh, it's a big deal. You always do that because it's the older people who set the path for you. And you're ignorant. You don't know better. And I'm saying you, me, I was ignorant. I didn't know better. So I went out and I got a license. I went to driver's ed. That's who taught me how to drive. It had nothing to do with a license. They taught me how to drive. I'm sure it's the same with you. Someone else taught you. But you paid for that license. Under the law, you have the right to travel and you don't need a license. Absolutely do not need a license. You can look up Thompson versus Smith, Miller versus U.S., Cummings versus U.S. There's numerous case law that tells you that. What the government is doing is saying that, well, we control commerce, so, yeah, you need a license. No, you need a license to operate a commercial vehicle. You do not need a license to drive a car, just from point A to point B, to get where you want to go. Having said that, I'd like Dean to read we did a couple excerpts from laws. It'll give you some idea. And you can look these up on your own. Don't take my word for any of this. Look it up on your own. But there's some laws here that you might be interested in hearing.
All right, this first one is from Shuttlesworth versus Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama. If the state does convert your right into a privilege and issues a license and a fee for it, you can ignore the license and a fee and engage in the right with impunity. And that's that. And that's for the reasons that you just said.
Let me just say, let me interject here. The Second Amendment in this Constitution is the right to keep and bear arms. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That means you don't come near it. You can't do anything to infringe upon the people's right to bear arms. Now, what Dean just read supports that claim. You don't need a permit. You don't need, by the way, permit means permission from the government. You, by getting the permit, you're turning a right into a privilege. You're asking the government for permission. But our ignorance allows us to continue to do this. So if you want to continue, Dean, please.
Yep. This is from Bonnet versus Valier and Norton versus Shelby County. No one is bound to obey an unconstitutional law, and no courts are bound to enforce it. Period. Another one, law of the land. Due course of law and due process of law are synonymous. People versus Skinner, State versus Rossi, and there's two other cases here. Marbury versus Madison. All laws, rules, and practices which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. And what it doesn't say here is that it's null and void from the inception. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep. Every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He is not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow man without his consent. Cruden versus Neal.
And the important thing I wanted to mention about Cruden versus Neal, it's a 1796 case. That came out 5 short years after the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, was ratified in 1791. What it's saying is that the government cannot regulate your behavior by passing laws. You can't spit on the sidewalk, you can't jaywalk, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's none of the government's business. We should all be responsible enough to live amongst one another and respect one another's property, rights, or whatever. But it's not the government's business to get involved with it. Because of our ignorance, we've allowed this to happen. Getting back to Marbury versus Madison, we just did a small excerpt, but it says, I lost my train of thought. Marbury versus Madison on the...
What's it? Laws are null and void from inception?
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. Murdoch versus Pennsylvania says that the state cannot charge a fee for a license or a permit on a protected right of the people. Well, they do it all the time. They do it with your gun. They're telling you need a permit. A driver's license, which you don't need to operate your car. And I'm not suggesting to anybody that you do anything I'm saying here. I'm just trying to make you aware of this stuff. You own your own house. They say you need a permit from the city you live in to build an addition or to put a roof on it, whatever. Why do you need permission from the city to fix your house? Whose house is it? Yours or the government's? But you comply, right? You go get that permit. These are the things you got to be careful of, and you got to be conscious of. You might say, "Oh, it's not a big deal. I'll just pay the permit or whatever." You're turning your rights into a privilege. And I'll back that up further because I didn't prove much of anything. Our legislature, right here in New Hampshire, one of our friends of ours, mine and Dean, filed legislation on the right to travel. And what it basically said was that people in New Hampshire have the right to travel. They don't need a driver's license, which is already law. Check out Thompson versus Smith, Miller versus U.S., some of these cases that are mentioned. It's already law. However, everybody that was on the House committee shot it down. They said, geez, we're going to be losing too much revenue. Well, if our legislatures are concerned with losing revenue for the government, they have no right to complain about how invasive, overreaching, or anything else that the government is. You're there to protect, and you take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. That means you uphold and defend the Bill of Rights for the people. You don't violate it because you're not making enough money. Okay, that's the sinful part. The other thing, and I'm guilty of this, so please don't you get offended, you get offended. But for law enforcement out there, I was one of them. I took an oath twice. And if you're out there enforcing what you perceive to be the laws, and you're violating the people's rights, you're guilty. You're guilty, and you're ignorant of this book. These statutes, if they're repugnant to the Constitution, they're null and void. Read Marbury versus Madison. Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham, Alabama. I can go on and on and on about the laws. Check some of these out, by the way, that we're mentioning. You can find them on Google. And let me just go a step further. The people are ignorant because we go out and we pay for the permits and we pay for the licenses. If you go fishing and hunting, do you need a license? No, you do not. You're going to get food, no different than going to the grocery store. Why do you need permission from the government? Because you want to eat? I know a lot of hunters, and they take the food home, put it in the refrigerator. They got meat for the month or the 2 months or whatever. Since when do you need a license? Government's just doing this to extract money from you. I defy any judge or lawyer to show me the law that says you have to pay a tax on your wages. Hasn't been done yet in America. And I know plenty of organizations out there who have asked for it and still haven't got it from the government. They've asked the commissioner, numerous commissioners, of the IRS, and not one of them have produced it. Not one lawyer. The lawyers, I think, if they're ignorant, they're ignorant. The judges, that's another story. I believe they're all guilty of treason. They have to be. You can't be. I didn't go to law school, and I know this. You mean to tell me they went to law school and they didn't? There's something wrong there. Anyway, I believe that through our ignorance, the legislature doesn't know the law, which is the supreme law of the land. Forget your state constitution, at least for a minute. Read the United States Constitution. That is the supreme law. If you don't know it, why the hell are you making laws for your state? And you people in law enforcement, how can you enforce the laws if you don't know what the laws are? And I contend you don't. I'm not saying everybody. I'm speaking in general terms here. Are you afraid because they tell you need, 2,000 tickets written this year? Forget number of you're law enforcement. You're not a slot machine generating income. That's what your job is. We got to start changing this thing. And if people got to start pushing back, I'm not even advocating anything. I don't know what to do. I'm doing things in my own way, my own right, what I believe to be right. And I'm not going to advocate anybody do anything. But first, read this. You can go to Publius Hulda, and you can find out I think she's an excellent source in the Constitution. Chris Ann Hall's another one.
Both on YouTube.
Both on YouTube, yes. Michael Badnarik is another one. Carl Miller. These are all on YouTube. It's free. This morning I was listening to a radio show. I don't have TV. I got rid of that years ago. I was listening to a radio show, and they said some guy was talking, just regular guy, was talking to some woman, and he thought she was, I don't know some entertainer. It turns out she was a different person. She was an entertainer, but a different person than he thought. And somebody took a picture of them talking, and there was 30,000 hits this morning on YouTube. And I'm saying, all because one guy was talking to a girl who was in a movie star. And I'm talking about things that affect your life right here. This Constitution affects your life every single day. It's going to adversely affect your children and grandchildren. And if you don't know this book, and if you don't spread this video, not because I'm looking for fame, because with this puss, I'm not looking for fame. I am looking to educate people. I give a damn about my country, and that's all I want. People to understand what's wrong. And that's it. I think you got a few more there to read,
Yep.
Don't you, Dean, if you don't mind?
This one starts with statutes, so I just wanted to make it clear that statutes are. Do you want to explain that first? They're not laws. They're codes and regulations that the state.
Well, I will say this: they have a right to. Congress has a right to make statutes, as does the state. Every statute that's made has to be in compliance with this, or it's null and void. If it doesn't comply with the United States Constitution, it's no good. That means Obamacare is no good. Patriot Act, Agenda 21, NDAA, they're all null and void. They violate this book. That's the law. Not because I say so. Read it. You find out. This is your law, too. This is the people's law. Just one other quick thing. Mm-hmm. The preamble says, we the people of the United States in order to form a more perfect union. That means we the people. The Founding Fathers wrote the book for us, but not for us to obey, for us to give to the government and say, here, obey this. State and federal, obey this book. This is a law, the supreme law of the land, for the government to obey. You have to understand that. It's not for me to obey. What am I going to do? I have to make sure I don't violate my freedom of speech? I don't think that's going to happen. That's why I'm here now. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sure. Statutes that violate the plain and obvious principles of common right and common reason are null and void. Bennett versus Boggs. Under our system of government, upon the individuality and intelligence of the citizen, the state does not claim to control him or her except as his or her conduct to others, leaving him or her the sole judge as to all that affects himself or herself. Mugler versus Kansas.
All of these laws, you can go back and watch this video over again. It's going to be up on YouTube. And you can reference the laws and check them out on Google. I don't know if they're on YouTube or not. Probably, yeah. I don't look on YouTube, but I do Google. The other thing I wanted to say is the 9th and 10th Amendment, because people don't look at the Constitution and read it and are familiar with it. Well, I'll let read the 9th and 10th, and then we can talk about it a little bit. The 9th and 10th Amendment in the Constitution.
Let me do that.
Sure, please. Actually, can you do 10 first?
Yeah.
And then 9?
The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people.
What that means is if the federal government, if it's not listed in this book, they don't have the authority to do it. Yet, there's 75 armed agencies of the federal government. Now, the federal government works for us. So you got to say, why are they armed? Not only that, I believe there's 70 to 75 agencies that aren't even mentioned in this book. They're totally illegal, unlawful, however you want to look at it. They have no authorization to operate. And that's, I mean, I won't even go through it, but the IRS is one of them, one of my favorite people, who like to kick people's doors and seize their assets without going to court. Lovely, isn't it? They work for you. You pay their salary. But anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ninth Amendment.
Please.
The enumerated, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people.
And the point that I wanted to make with that specifically was travel. In the Constitution, it doesn't say travel, but the Ninth Amendment says there's much more. You have the right to have children. You have the right to go to a restaurant. You have the right to hop in a boat and go on a lake or walk somewhere. You have the right to do a lot of different things that are not mentioned in the Constitution. And you don't need the government's permission for any of this. However, the government keeps encroaching upon us and extracting more and more and more money from us. And if we don't put a stop to it peacefully, not asking for any type of revolution or any of that garbage, I know how that ends historically. If you read that, you'll find out a lot of dead people and not much gets done. But peacefully, we can all do it. We got to come together as Americans. I don't care if you're a liberal, Democrat, conservative, Republican, homophobe, homosexual, homo sapien, I don't care what you are. If you got 2 legs, 2 arms, and you're an American, fine. That's what should matter to us, is this, the Constitution. Center ourselves around this, and I guarantee you we'll bring our country back. And the people out there, and I'm not blaming people, by the way, our ignorance is what's killing us, all of ours. It's only been recently that I've become awake. When I took an oath of office in law enforcement twice, I didn't know what the hell a Constitution was. I just said, no big deal. It is a big deal. It's a very big deal. It's what's destroying this country. So if you're a cop out there and you're enforcing the statutes, find out if they're repugnant to the Constitution. If they are, stop it. Because you're sworn to uphold and defend the Bill of Rights. You're there to protect the rights of the people, not step all over them. Okay, and the word sovereign is not a bad word. The government makes it so, but it's not a bad word. Anyway, that's almost all I have. I don't know how much time we got.
I got a couple more. You want them?
Sure.
When a judge, this one, if we could just enforce this one, we'd be a long way towards sovereignty. When a judge knows that he lacks jurisdiction or acts in the face of clearly valid statutes expressly depriving him of jurisdiction, judicial immunity is lost. That's Rankin versus Howard, 1980 Zeller versus Rankin. Anything on that?
Yes. Well, I'll let you. Is there one more there?
There's a couple more.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Misuse of power. Possessed by virtue of state law and made possible only because the wrongdoer is clothed with authority of state, is action taken under the color of state law. Atkins versus Lanning. For a crime to exist, there must be an injured party. There can be no sanction or penalty imposed upon one because of the exercise of constitutional rights. Scherer versus Cohen.
That further supports my contention about the license or the permit for a handgun, the license to drive a car. You don't need it. These are Supreme Court cases, by the way. I'm not making this up, and if it's already been to the Supreme Court, does it have to go there again and again and again? I mean, isn't the law the law? That's what I always thought. The judges, and my bone of contention is with them. I grew up respecting judges, and I used to take inmates into court occasionally, and I deal with them and talk to them casually, We weren't close buddies or anything. But what I found over the years is these people go to law school and they practice law. They got to know the law. There's just no two ways about it. So when you walk into a courtroom and they use Admiralty jurisdiction on you to trick you and to fool you and then treat you like an enemy combatant, because I do understand all the garbage they're spewing, but it's all fraud. Every damn bit of it's fraud. And I'm glad that that fraud has no statute of limitations on it. These people, I think, are going to have to make amends someday. I would love for them to turn around now and say, you know, we've been doing the wrong thing and maybe we can change our ways. That would be really nice. Because I grew up believing that most of the people on this planet are nice people. They don't want to hurt anybody. You got some evil people, you got some sick people. But most people are nice. And I grew up believing that lawyers and judges, I have a lot of lawyer friends, and I'm amazed that they're doing what they're doing. So I'm asking everybody to look at this, look at the Constitution. If you don't know it, and if you're a lawyer or a judge, read it. A cop especially, read it. You're stopping people because their blinkers out and saying, where you been, where you going? You got anything in your car? What, are you serious? My directional was out. Just tell me to fix it and I'll be on my way. Thank you very much. I appreciate your help. Not everybody's a criminal. Stop acting like that. Anyway, I would like to ask everybody, I'd love to see this video go viral, because I believe in my heart that this is the problem with America. You can certainly disagree, but you can't disagree if you haven't read this book. So please take the time to do that and spread this around. I'd love to see it go viral. It means more than some movie star getting 30,000 hits because she was talking to a guy.
All right. Thank you, Richie. So we're almost out of time. I do want to mention that, once again, the National Liberty Alliance has a civics course on it that's free, and you can go on there and become a member. There's no charge for it. You can take the civics course. It's 120 hours, and it is invaluable, and we'll talk about a lot of the things that we talk about on this show. It will educate you as to the structure of the Constitution, the law of the land, and that sort of stuff that Richie's been talking about.
Just one quick thing.
Go ahead, Richie.
If you have junior high or high school age kids, please have them check out this civics course. It's phenomenal. 120-hour civics course. Your kids will understand the law once they go through that course, and it's free.
Thank you, Richie. All right, that wraps it up for today. Have a great day. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.